guys, I'm going to take you on a mine tour that's actually part of a restaurant. It's called the Ponderosa. And we came in here and this gentleman is going to take us for a walk through an actual mine shaft.
All right, you guys, underground mine tour starting. If you have or want tickets, come on back and talk to me. All right, I'll take the little average off. Thank you for being patient. All right, keep that drink
and here's our guy.
So that we don't have any mice in the mine, okay?
Don't get in front of me, Kaylee.
Be a straightaway. No point waiting until you get down here. You may as well have it right here next to the door. All right, well, good afternoon and welcome to Virginia City. And as you can see, this is our first big event of the year. This is when the season starts with the Rocky Mountain Oyster Festival and the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Now, the St. Patrick's Day Parade is actually kind of important up here on the Comstock because there's a lot of Irish tradition and heritage in the mining here. The Irish actually ran the union here, they ran the militia, they ran the fire department, and for 2 decades, the Irish were the sheriffs here. So they're a very big part of this community up here. Also, good afternoon and welcome to the Best of Belcher Mine Tour. My name is Mort, and I'm going to be your guide. And don't be concerned that Mort in most languages means death. It's not really that kind of tour. Now you'll notice there are hard hats here on your left. You can wear one if you want, but you don't have to. If you're over 5'8", you will have to duck once or twice. But what we tell the shorter people on tour, if you're getting bored, just watch the taller people down there. They can be very entertaining. Yeah, you can wear one if you want. Hi, now this mine is 160 years old this year. It was started in 1859. Vest and Belcher invested somewhere between $1 and $2 million into developing this mine. Worked on and off all the way up till 1925, making it one of the longest operating mines up here on the Comstock. However, all that money they invested and the time didn't make any difference because all they took out of here was $438 in silver. It was a failed silver mine. That's not the whole story though. Best of Belcher owned other mines up here in the Comstock, and in fact at 2,700 feet this shaft was used as part of the venting system for the Virginia mine just to the north of us, which was actually the richest strike up here in the Bonanza. Took in some $80 million in silver ore in $1,800. So this mine did actually share in the profit of that. However, it wasn't the only failed mine. Most of them were. On this map behind me, those rectangular shapes represent the mining claims around this area. At peak time, there were over 2,000. Only 19 of them actually paid off and made their owners wealthy. And the reason for that is a combination of luck and geology. The silver ore here in this mountain is not in seams or in veins. It's in pockets or bodies of ore. It meant you were just lucky to hit it. And that chart right there on your right is a perfect illustration of what happened. Those dark areas are the bodies of ore. Now you'll notice along the bottom are the names of the mines, the claims. You'll see quite a few of them actually pass right through the bodies without touching any of them. And the Best of Belcher is one of those that's listed over there. You'll notice that passes right between 2 of the largest strikes. The Gold Curry strike to the south of us and the Virginia strike to the north of us. We didn't hit any of that. Now the Virginia is, they took enough silver ores out, said $80 million worth. The hole they left down there is big enough to put 4 of the churches, Catholic churches across the road into that hole. The reason the hole is so large, this is silver ore from here on the Comstock. This is the variety, the lower grade ore that was found near the surface. The miners did actually call this blue mud or blue clay, because you can see that's exactly what it looks like, lumps of blue clay. Now the highest grade ore was found at 2,000 and 3,000 feet. And by high grade ore, that means you'd expect to get around 2,000 ounces of silver out of every ton of the ore. That's it, 2,000 ounces per ton. Wow. Well, the unprocessed ore was being sold for $40 to $60 a ton. They took $80 million out of that hole. You do the math and work out how many tons of ore that is. We like having this here just so we can get rid of the misconceptions about what mining really is. It isn't what you see on television or in the movies or in Minecraft. It isn't a case about digging a hole in the ground, picking up one rock and you're rich. Mining is an industrial process. It's about moving and processing tons and tons of ore. Prospectors didn't get rich. It was the mining companies and the banks who bought their claims. They were the ones who got rich. Now you'll notice as you're walking around Virginia City today what a small town we are. We actually only have a permanent population here now of about 800 living people. And I said living on purpose because there's a lot of the non-living here. It's a very haunted place. But it wasn't like that back in the 1800s. We were the third largest city on the West Coast with a population over 30,000. That was San Francisco, Denver, and then Virginia City. If you want to see what that city looked like back then, when you go back out into the bar, over the stage where the band is playing, there's a really nice big black and white photograph, and that's only a third of that photograph. Shows what the city looked like back before the last Great Fire in 1875. All right, we're going to head down underground now. If you want to grab a hard hat, feel free to do so.
Connor. Sorry I'm so shaky, the ground's uneven.
All right, now you notice the temperature in here. It actually stays this temperature year-round, somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees, which makes it very pleasant in the summer because it can be 100 degrees outside. Now, because of the geothermal activity in northern Nevada, and under this mountain in particular, what that means is the deeper you go in the mountain, it doesn't get colder, it gets hotter. So the mine's operating at 2,000 and 3,000 feet, where most of them were, because that's where the high-grade ore was. The temperature there is between 110 and 140 degrees, which is why most of the paintings and photographs and drawings you see of miners around Virginia City, you'll notice they're not wearing very much. They were trying to keep cool underground. The big mines actually had ice rooms where they brought down chunks of ice from Lake Tahoe. The miners would go in there several times to cool off, to chill off while they were actually working underground. All right, now, quite obviously back in the 1800s, they didn't have an entrance to a working mine coming out of the back of a bar. Miners would like that, it's just not true. The true story is pretty interesting, however. The only entrance to this access tunnel is the original 1859 vertical shaft, comes straight down 50 feet. Now, all these kids here would love to come down a vertical shaft, but the rest of us ain't going to do that. So in 1979, the current owner of this mine knocked out the back wall of that vault we were just standing in. In the 1980s, built this portal that we just walked through. That's why it's tall, wide, and symmetrical, nice, clean timbers. So if you're congratulating yourself you haven't hit your head yet, don't get carried away. This is by far the tallest part of the whole tour right here. Now, I mentioned that was a vault. We were standing in the reserve vault of the Bank of California. That's what the Ponderosa building was. It was built in 1864, worked as a bank all the way up until 1935. It's one of the most historic buildings up here. That tin ceiling and some of those chandeliers are original from 1864. It didn't closed in 1935, became a saloon in 1950. Now, the president and owner of that bank was William Sharon, and he's one of our more famous, colorful Comstock characters. He became extremely wealthy and very powerful, was known as the King of the Comstock. He used his bank in order to purchase many of the mining companies and other businesses. Now, from this point on, we're entering the older part of the mine, and you're going to start seeing two different colors of timber. The darker timber is the original 150-year-old Ponderosa pine that is still sound. But just to make sure it's safe down here, since the 1980s, the lighter Douglas fir has been added. And further we go down, the more of the newer timbers you're going to see over top of the old timbers, just to make sure it's safe. And we want it to be safe, don't we? Yeah. Now, this is an example of an old powder room right here. This is where the black powder, dynamite, blasted caps, fuses, and chemicals would have been kept under lock and key. And if you look carefully up there, you can actually see two sticks of 150-year-old, very unstable dynamite right on the edge of that box. So let's hope it doesn't fall off while we're down here. All right, we're going to move on down the shaft now.
Connor? Sorry about the shaking, but this floor is really uneven.
Right about there. That way they can squeeze in a little closer.
Sure. Ouch.
Alright, now the two basic shafts or bores in a mine are horizontal. We're walking in that. We're going to see the vertical one at the end of this tunnel. But what you see here in the first opening on your left is what's known as an incline bore or shaft or an incline chute. It shoots down to one of the working levels of this mine about 100 feet below us. You'll see there's a large ore bucket there set in the rails. It's connected by cable. When you get to the second opening, you're going to see a large hand-operated hoist. That's how that ore bucket would be raised and lowered. When it was brought up to this level, the ore would be emptied into an ore cart like you see there in that first opening. When that was full, a trammer, and that's a term for anything that moves an ore cart, would take it to the access shaft at the end of the tunnel. In a mine this small a level, the trammers were just the men themselves. They just pushed it down there. The bigger, deeper mines, though, the ones working on slopes or inclines, they used mules to move the ore carts around because they were smaller and stronger than horses. Though sadly, for those mules, when they went to those deep level mines, they actually lived their whole life down there. They were never returned to the surface again. Now the other interesting feature here is the flat braided cable that separates us from this equipment. This cable was developed here by a mining engineer to get into our deepest shaft. Now, if you haven't been to the Silver Queen Hotel, it's about 2 blocks north of us. You should go there. It's one of the most haunted places. There's a beautiful underground wedding chapel. But it's called the Silver Queen because there's a portrait of a lady in there, and her dress is made out of 3,261 silver dollars. That represents the depth of the deepest shaft here. That's what this cable was developed for. The innovation about this cable is it's flat. That means you can wind a lot more of it on a really big drum without it getting tangled or twisted. Thus, you could get much deeper into the ground. This cable went from here to San Francisco, where it was used in the cable car system. So have a look in these two openings, the equipment that's in here, and then meet me down here where the tunnel gets dark. So the display's right there. And if you shine a light on it, all the color goes away.
Oh, okay. Oh, how do I turn my light on? I can still see some color in there.
In 1870, did get use of power tools. This is an example of an old German manufactured pneumatic drill here. Most of the equipment, like that hoist you saw up there and this drill, came here from Germany. So did the engineers. The reason for that, Germany was the most advanced nation at that time in terms of mining engineering. They even had colleges of it. Now, what you will notice when you see this drill, when you get up here, it's made out of cast iron. It was powered by compressed air. What that meant is, not only is it heavy, loud, it would get very hot, and being cast iron, if it overheated and exploded, it would just turn into shrapnel. Hi, now there's two short passages here at the end. Taller people should go to the left-hand side, and shorter people who want to feel tall can come to the right-hand side.
And now we're leaving the mine after our mine tour, if I don't fall down first. There's the grandchildren up ahead. That's pretty cool. Oh! The ground goes down there, Matt.
Yeah, I found that out.
I almost fell. I'll try not to. Yeah. Okay, and we'll be back at the entrance here in about 2 seconds. This kind of gives you an idea of the old historic buildings. And these are all original buildings, most of them. They've been repaired somewhat, but they're all original.
Back up, Kaylee.
And this is downtown Virginia City. Here, let's go. This is the view from Virginia City from the main street on C Street. And this is the view from the main street. Isn't that pretty? A lot of mountains. And you see the plateaus out there. Isn't it beautiful? Everybody is up here oohing and on. Isn't that beautiful? This is from Main Street, Virginia City.